Introducing our top 10 topics of interest for this week with stories that matter. From global shifts to everyday breakthroughs, politics, religion, entertainment, science, health, and good news to garner the power of hope. Join us as we spotlight the top 10 stories shaping our world.
And hello, and welcome to Top 10 Newsworthy Topics for the first week of December, the last month of the year. So I'm trying something a little different, and I hope that you will entertain me and just let me know if you are interested in videos like this. Okay, so we are going to start off with our first topic. And let me see, can I put can I put the invite in case anyone wants to come up? Present or invite? Okay, invite. I'm going to pin it in the comments. Let me see, do I know how to pin? This is on YouTube. I think I just need to start. So I guess that's pinned. And then let's go to Facebook. Let's go to Facebook. And let's see if we can pin it there. If there's anyone interested. That is in the comments. Okay, so these are just some things that I feel that, are quite interesting based on, what has occurred during this week. Trying to be consistent. Since it's Friday night, most of us will not have to wake up early tomorrow. I feel that this is a great time to kind of have a little discussion and see what's going on. So the first thing we're going to talk about is politics. Hawaii's AI Satire Law is challenged. AI satire faces the courtroom. So it's free speech versus election integrity. So what is the lesson here? We're going to talk about what the lessons are, and for each topic, we're going to have a reflection, and you are more than welcome to come up and share how you feel about this. So, technology actually forces us to rethink constitutional rights. Innovation does kind of outpace the law, and free speech must evolve to protect both truth and creativity. So this is the article. We're going to bring up the article. Is share the screen. Share the screen. Okay. Go, go, go. Okay, where's my one about do. Okay, I see the other one. Let me go here. Let me bring it up again. Okay, copy. Okay, I found it. Okay, so let's go. And everything that we share It's for educational purposes and fair use. Okay? So let's go. Let me see. Is this the one? Nope, that's not it. Okay, I'm going to read it because for some reason it's not popping up. But what it is the article that I'm referring to is under the Alliance Defending Freedom, and it's the Babylon Bee files lawsuit challenging anti-free speech law in Hawaii. So basically, the Babylon Bee is a tagline that says fake news you can trust. Okay, so when the present and then prior president coined the phrase fake news in 2016, he, of course, was talking about satire. Okay. But websites that create these false headlines for comedic effect, they have been around for like ever before the internet. So satire itself is as old as the written word. So the lawsuit says Hawaii recently enacted a new law, S 2687, that imposes criminal and civil penalties for posting digitally modified content that risks harming the reputation or electoral prospects of a candidate in an election or changing the voting behavior of voters in an election. So the broad and vague language of this law means that you could face lawsuits, damages, fines, and yes, even jail time for posting political memes or social media. This is a law that was passed in Hawaii. The law was passed July 2024 and is effective February the 2nd, 2026 until November 3rd, 2026. During state elections and midterm races. So it's has a short span of being effective. But they consider that this is censorship and a clear violation of Hawaiians' First Amendment rights. So websites like the Babylon Bee would actually be forced to censor themselves or place disclaimers on many of their stories, which they feel would be ruining the joke that they're trying to make. So not only, but allowing government officials and people who dislike their views to run to court and sue for posting memes, criticizing politicians. It will chill speech, but sometimes the process is its own penalty. Laws like Hawaii's aren't about protecting the truth, they're about protecting politicians from criticisms. And that this is what the Babylon Bee feels is this law is doing. So the Babylon Bee has challenged the anti-free speech law in court. They're saying we're used to getting pulled over by the joke police. This is quote from the CEO Seth Dillon. In 2024, the Bee challenged two California laws that similarly ban certain political speech online. Both of these laws were passed after California Governor Gavin Newsom posted on social media that a parody video of then Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris should be illegal. Now, we know that everything has gone wild. Everything is topsy turvy right now because we know that there are a lot of AI videos that that the person that's in the White House have put out there, have reposted, and now even, Gavin Newsom is in the mix doing it, because he's going head to head, shot for shot. So what really are we talking about right here? Because now all of this seems to be out the window because it's so much satire, memes going on. You know, are you going to be able to capture all of it and go after everyone, especially when there are two leaders? Well, there's more than two leaders that are posting these things now. So the reflection is, how do we balance truth and creativity in political discourse? Are we using our platforms to clarify truth or distort it for entertainment or influence? So that's something to really think about. And like I stated, I mean, we got a lot going on with this type of situation. So that is the reflection. Can we balance this? Is it curtailing free speech when someone criticizes someone else in a satire kind of way? Are jokes going too far? Is satire going too far? Those are the questions. But then I can also say, because some of the satire and quote unquote fake news, some of it has influenced election integrity. Some of it has evolved into propaganda. So where is the line? Because we still want truth to prevail. So all I can say is we need to let our conversation be always full of grace and seasoned with salt. So we need to speak with clarity and kindness, even when challenging ideas. Now, I know some may say, well, some people are getting down and dirty with their speech. And sometimes you need to go head to head, blow to blow. And I'll just say sometimes you need to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. So let's go on to the next thing. Now, the Gallup poll, red and blue speech bubbles are clashing, and Americans warn political words are fueling real world violence. And this is true. We have seen this in real time. We have seen, let me say, we can go back to a time when, what was J6? We saw that. We have seen judges, political leaders be harmed or fatally harmed because of political words that have fueled violence. You know, words can escalate into real world harm, because this is just not limited to politics. I mean, this is even happening in the YouTube streets, Facebook streets, on our regular streets. Language isn't neutral. It shapes emotions, decisions, and outcomes. It's a real thing. So let's look at the Gallup poll. We can bring that up. Okay. Here it is. Okay, so basically, what we're seeing here is where the Gallup poll More Americans say political rhetoric has gone too far. Now, it's interesting. It's saying 69% say Republicans and 60% say Democrats' inflammatory criticism of opponents have gone too far. What about the person in the White House? Okay, now this is December 3rd article. Okay, so what are we saying here? It's saying that large majorities of Americans then in the past believed that both the Democratic and Republican parties and their supporters have gone too far in using inflammatory language to criticize their opponents. 69% now say this about the Republican Party and Republicans, and a 16 percentage point increase from 2011. 60% currently believe this applies to the Democratic Party and Democrats, which is 9 points higher than 14 years ago. So here is the actual poll. Okay, so thinking more generally about the way political issues are discussed and debated in the United States today, the question was, do you think each of the following groups has or has not gone too far in using inflammatory language to criticize their political opponents? So in 2011, 53% said the Republicans and their supporters, 37% said no, have not, and 11% no opinion. 2025, this year, in this poll, 69% says Republicans and their supporters, 27% says no, have not, and 4% has no opinion. Now in 2011, 51% said the Democrats and their supporters, 39% said no, 11% said no opinion. This year, 2025, 60% said yes about the Democrats and their supporters, and 36% said no, and 4% said no opinion. It's interesting how the no opinions are the same percentage. But anyway, so these results are based on an October 1 through 16 Gallup poll, which updated a question that has been previously asked in 2011 in the wake of the mass pow pow that injured former Democratic Representative Gifford and actually unalived 6. So this latest poll was conducted shortly after Republican activist Kirk was unalived during an appearance at a Utah college and follows 2 unalivings attempts okay, on the White House. So Republicans and Democrats are now nearly unanimously believing the other party has gone too far with its rhetoric and are much more likely to think this now than in 2011. So, in contrast, partisans are disciplined to believe their own party has gone too far with its rhetoric and are no more likely now in 2011 to hold this view. So, the thing is, the changes in views of whether rhetoric has gone too far. Well, you can see that the image, the data right there. So let's talk about the spread of extremist views online has been blamed for most of political violence. Extremist views, propaganda, all of that. And, we have all these um, apps, platforms that's constantly providing information, whether it's truth or fake news, is constantly coming, you know? So, like they're stating, there was this separate question. which was measured in the Gallup panel web survey, again asking Americans how much they blame each of 7 possible factors for recent political violence in the US. So slightly less than 2/3, 64%, assign a great deal of blame to prominent politicians or political commentators' inflammatory language. And that's a mouthful within itself. So 45% of US adults believe easy access to Pow Pows is highly blameworthy, while less than 1/3 say the same of drug use, insufficient security in public buildings, or violence in video games, movies, or music lyrics. And still, at least half of Americans see each of the 7 possible reasons to blame either a great deal or a fair amount. So they believe the spread of extremist viewpoints in the internet, inflammatory language from prominent politicians or political commentators, failure of the mental health system to identify individuals who are a danger to others, easy access to Pow Pows, drug use, insufficient security in public buildings, violence in movies, video games, and music lyrics. But the number one at the top is the spread of extremist viewpoints on the internet. So partisans are generally in agreement about the major causes of political violence, which means it doesn't matter which side, which color, blue, red, which side of the aisle you on. It appears that we are in agreement about the major causes of political violence. So again, words can escalate into real world harm. How can we personally model respectful dialogue in our daily lives? And how can we hold the political pundits, you know, the commentators, the political people, leaders? How can we hold them accountable? That's something that we need to think about as well. How can we hold them accountable? Because it's really getting out of control. It's really getting out of control. So how can we hold them accountable in regards to this clashing, these words that are fueling this violence? I mean, we've obviously, it's triggering to a lot of people. I mean, we have seen even in DC the recent pow pow of the National Guard, where someone drives all the way from the state of Washington and comes to the city of Washington, DC. What is driving that? What is driving that? And again, just all the things that we've seen happening, it is real what's going on. So are we choosing words that build bridges or burn them? That is what I'm trying to see, because I feel like a lot of bridges have been burned and some of them have been blown up the way these words are fueling the violence. So let's just be reminded, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And a lot of what has been happening has been fueled by anger that was stirred up by words. Peace begins with how we speak, just as violence and anger begins with how we speak. So let's be very mindful of how we speak. Okay, let's go to the next topic, religion. What do we have under religion? The Johnson Amendment case in Texas. What is that about? Churches are pushing back. Should pulpits endorse candidates? Because, primarily churches are 501c3 nonprofits where they're supposed to be, they're not supposed to be biased. They're supposed to be partisan, not on one side or the other. Of course, they're going to be or should be involved in community issues, justice, truth, fighting for the little man, serving the community. But the question has been, should pulpits endorse candidates? It's saying freedom of speech versus separation of church and state. This is where faith and democracy sometimes collide, and boundaries must be navigated with wisdom. So let's see what this is all about. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so upholding the Johnson Amendment. Okay. The next front in the fight against, I guess they want to say, dark money. Okay, what is the Johnson Amendment? For decades, the Johnson Amendment has ensured that 501c3 nonprofit organizations, including houses of worship and religious organizations, remain nonpartisan. That's what I meant to say, not partisan, nonpartisan, in exchange for tax exemption. So, under this policy, houses of worship and religious organizations cannot endorse or oppose partisan political candidates for public office. But we have seen that that has just been thrown to the wind in a lot of evangelical arenas. Okay, but let's continue. So, the current administration's Internal Revenue Service is attempting to carve out a sweeping exemption for religious organizations, allowing them to engage in partisan politics under the guise of religious expression without losing their tax benefits. Now, this has already been occurring. So now it's just a matter of making sure legally they cannot be held accountable for doing this or losing their tax benefits. So if this is successful, this effort would have the unintended consequence of opening the floodgates to the creation of a new class of some dark money groups, even though a lot of it has already been done under the table, but now it would just be out in the open. But really, some of it is already out in the open, but it would be more so out in the open. So groups disorganized as religious nonprofits, that will operate as unregulated tax-deductible vehicles for wealthy donors to secretly influence elections, which has already happened. Um, and we know some of the organizations that have been in the forefront of this. Now, why could this possibly be a problem? This would fundamentally alter the landscape of campaign finance, eroding transparency and public trust in our democratic institutions. So, rolling back limitations on political activities by houses of worship and religious organizations could offer wealthy special interests a way to not only influence elections anonymously, but also to get a charitable tax deduction for doing it. So the thing is that this was talked about in 2017, and it still appears to be going on. And how do you feel about that? I mean, should faith leaders influence elections, or should religion remain separate from politics? Is there a separation of church and state? Are we using spiritual authority to serve God's kingdom or political agendas? Yes, it says render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's. And me, myself personally, I believe that it is our civic duty to participate in voting. Um, I believe that issues that affect communities and even the communities within the church, I do believe that they can be addressed, um, and to give solutions to church communities. Um, but kind of blatantly, it's just a thin line when it's very obvious. It has to be an individual thing. I feel, as far as who you going to endorse individually, influencing straight out from the pulpit is another level. It's a whole nother monster. But the thing, but the bottom line is discernment is key in honoring both civic duty and your divine calling. That's the bottom line. Okay, we're going to move on to the next. Um, Pope Leo. So, we have a new pope. So the pope calls for unity. He's saying no violence in God's name. Now we know that a lot of that has been happening. We know that slavery was done in the name of God. I mean, they were giving Bibles to the those that were enslaved, allowing them to only speak on certain things to their little congregation. The enslaved preachers that gathered to have their little church services. So a lot of things have been done in the name of God. And we're wondering why, you know? It's Pope Leo is saying no. It needs to stop. And he's saying it needs to stop now. And we should be in agreement. The Pope at Mass, he said, disarm our hearts to bring peace and justice. And he was talking about in Lebanon. And this was December the 2nd. So on the last day of his apostolic journey to Lebanon, he presided at a mass for thousands of Lebanese faithful, and the Pope expressed his gratitude for the joyful welcome he received in Lebanon, thanking God for allowing him to make this visit. And despite the difficult situations many people face in their daily lives, he said Christians must always cultivate an attitude of praise and gratitude. And I've been trying to cultivate that throughout this year, and especially this last 2 months. But the Pope marveled at the beauty of Lebanon, and he added, the beauty of your country is also overshadowed by the many problems that afflict you, the fragile and often unstable political context, the dramatic economic crisis that weighs heavily upon you, and the violence and conflicts that have reawakened ancient fears. Oh my goodness. Now he's in Lebanon, but I declare this sounds like the United States of the Americas. It sounds like the USA to me. So amid these worries and issues, we can let disillusionment overcome our gratitude and uncertainty overwhelm our hope. Now, this is a message to the USA as well, really to the world. But I'm telling you, here in Lebanon, but this is for us as well. He said, the word of the Lord, however, invites us to find the small shining lights in the heart of the night, both to open ourselves to gratitude and to spur us on to a common commitment for the sake of this land. The kingdom of God, he recalled, is described by the prophet Isaiah as a small branch sprouting from a trunk, representing a small sign of hope that promises rebirth amid death. It is also an indication for us so that we may have eyes capable of recognizing the smallness of the shoot that emerges and grows even in the midst of a painful period. This is a word, y'all. Catch hold to it, catch hold to it. Even now, said the Pope, small lights begin to shine in Lebanon's night. Small lights begin to shine in the USA, and the American people's sincere and genuine faith rooted in our families and nourished by our, I'm going to say, by our belief and being followers of Jesus. That's what's going to help us, because there are a lot of people calling themselves Christians, but they are not true believers and followers of Jesus Christ, because the things that they do, their actions speak louder than their words, and their actions are showing who they truly are. So this is definitely a word for us. You hear me? It says the beauty of your country, the beauty of our country is also overshadowed by the many problems that afflict us, the fragile and often unstable political context, the dramatic economic crisis that weighs heavily upon us, and the violence and conflicts that have reawakened ancient fears. Amid these worries and issues, we can let disillusionment overcome our gratitude and uncertainty overcome our hope. But we got to let our light shine. You know, religious or leadership, our spiritual leaders, they can foster reconciliation, but it also has to start within us as well. You know, faith can be a bridge when leaders choose peace over division. Faith can be a bridge when we choose peace over division. So our reflection tonight is, how can we practice peace in our own communities? Are we reconciling with others or holding on to offense? Because it is written, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God. Peace is a true divine calling, not just a social goal. It is truly a calling. So when you got your call, did you answer? That is the question. But yeah, that message is definitely for us as well. Now let's go to entertainment. A little bit on the lighter side. Retro neon TV screen with play button, which is Netflix. Now, I have only seen Stranger Things a couple of times. The one that really stuck in my head, I don't know who watches Stranger Things, but the finale is coming forth. The one that really stuck in my head was when the girl went to her friend's house for dinner and she bought the pie, and I kept thinking of Eat the Cake anime, but she kept on saying eat the pie, and everybody around the table was eating the pie, and of course she didn't eat it, but the girl that she wanted to eat the pie kept saying, no, I don't want to be fat, I gotta watch my diet, blah blah blah. But her family, all of them was eating it, and then they just boom boom fell out. That is the one I kept recalling, because she was like, I told you to eat the pie. Well, the finale of that is coming, and I didn't look at too many of the Stranger Things, but the finale is coming. So you all get ready for the finale. And what is it about? What is it about? The finale. It's saying, if you're not ready to say goodbye to Hawkins, you are in luck. The Stranger Things finale will be an epic, super-sized farewell. The runtime of the series' long-awaited last chapter has officially been revealed to be a blockbuster 2 hours and 5 minutes, setting the stage for one last massive journey into the upside. Even though this was the upside downside, all around side type of series. So the finale will have limited fan screenings in like more than 500 theaters across the U.S. and Canada, beginning December the 31st, New Year's Eve at 5 p.m. Pacific time, timed to the finale's global premiere on Netflix at the same time, and run through January 1, 2026. So they have a website for the full list of locations and to learn how you can grab your seat. And then Stranger Things 5, well, Stranger Things 5 kicked off in 1987, but he vanished, his whereabouts and plans unknown. But the first 4 episodes of Stranger Things 5 are streaming now on Netflix, followed by the 3 more episodes on Christmas Day. So if you are into Stranger Things, the finale is going to be big. So don't forget to mark your calendar. Don't forget to mark your calendar. So that was entertainment. I didn't have a lot to say about that. But entertainment reflects collective nostalgia and innovation. What we watch kind of shapes how we remember, dream, and relate. Like I said, some things just stick in your head. And I just kept remembering her saying, eat the pie. eat the pie. And then you think of, and I begin to think of, eat the cake. And man, so how does the media we consume shape our worldview? Let's think about that. That is a reflective question. Are we feeding our spirit with hope or with fear and cynicism? Because there's some things that if you keep feeding or don't take a break, because I did have to kind of like take a break with some of this goings on. I did have to kind of like take a break because you could tell when you're about to be overwhelmed and step over from the optimism to the pessimism side. But anyway, so all I can say is just be careful of what you consume, um, because we want to make sure that whatever is true, whatever is noble, that we think on these things. So we should aim to choose content that uplifts and enlightens. So let's go. Science. Woo woo. Okay, we the supermoon. Okay, yesterday was the last supermoon for the year, and I saw that moon full, the fullness. It was a full moon, and it was out around 4 p.m. I saw it just sitting up there in the sky. Did anybody else see it? It was just sitting up there in the sky. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that is crazy." So, it just I was in awe about it. You know, are we too busy sometimes to notice beauty and mystery around us? Because it's like the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. And that was just kind of amazing to me. I mean, I recall seeing once before when you got the sun shining and the moon there, and that's how it was yesterday. The moon was full, full moon, full display. Sun was shining, and then for the rest of the night, it was a full moon yesterday. So let's go on to there was some healthcare breakthroughs and treatments in the DNA helix. So they are moving forward with a lot of new technology in healthcare. Um, DNA, helix, other treatments, more robotic surgeries. So all this is going in lightning speed. But one thing I really wanted to focus on and talk about was millions risk losing affordable coverage as subsidies expire and there is this political deadlock. As we recall, the shutdown occurred um, in the Senate. They agreed upon opening the shut opening the government with the agreement that there was going to be brought to the floor for a vote to extend the subsidies. As of the day and the time, they have not brought that out. So, what is really going on the forefront about that? Let us see about that. Okay, we got, okay, here we go. So, for December the 5th, it's talking about Johnson's health bill next week, unlikely to end Obamacare standoff. So, Johnson, as we know, is the Speaker of the House. He's quote unquote pushing to unveil a Republican health care bill in the coming days for a vote by the end of the month. Now, this is the 5th, okay? But the move, and we have a holiday coming up. But this move, they're stating, is unlikely to resolve the congressional deadlock over expiring Obamacare subsidies. So what does that really mean? It means that there is a possibility that the subsidies will expire on December the 31st, and people have already begun to receive their astronomically increased premium that is beyond this galaxy, that premiums will shoot up that high. Someone was paying 700, went up to 2,000. What in the world? So now health insurance is going to be mortgages. You're going to have to decide. So many are going to lose their insurance because they just won't be able to afford it. And people are saying, well, go to the other market. But you have to remember, a lot of these people, they have this insurance because they have pre-existing conditions. And when you go to the quote unquote other healthcare market and you apply, a lot of times you're going to get rejected because you have pre-existing conditions. They will get rejected. And so where are they in this whole scheme of thing as far as maintaining and having health care when these subsidies actually expire? The GOP plan is likely to include ideas the party has floated in the past to create less comprehensive plans to compete with Obamacare and to divert premium tax credits for the insurance policies toward tax sheltered savings accounts individuals can use to cover non premium out of pocket costs. But where are they going to get the money? Okay. So, the House Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, again blasted the Republicans for refusing to negotiate on an extension of the subsidies and trying to undermine the Affordable Care Act insurance exchanges. So again, we are kind of like back where we have always been, where there's this stalemate, where there is this standoff, this deadlock. And then, what is kind of sad is that if they don't come up with anything, if they do not extend. Now, at one point, the president stated that he was considering extending the subsidies for 2 years, but then somehow the Johnson man said there aren't enough Republican votes to back that up, which I'm not understanding. Republicans right now, most of your red states are the ones that are utilizing the Affordable Care Act, and they need these subsidies. So I'm not understanding what the issue is that you can't get on board, e- extend it for 2 years and work on you all's health care plan that for the last 15 years have not materialized. At least give the people what they have now until you all can come up with your plan to counter or dismantle or whatever. So again, what we can say, and I said this before, I said they opened the government with the agreement that it was going to be brought to the floor about extending the subsidies. And I said, if they fail to keep their word, then that is something that we need to remind them. And that also is a reflection of their character because they, quote unquote, gave their word in exchange to open up the federal government, and if they renege on that, that's a reflection of their character. So, again, without an extension, more than 20 million Affordable Care Act users are set to see their premiums spike, on average, more than doubling at the beginning of the year. So insurers are set to lose droves of customers expected to go without health care coverage because of the higher cost. So again, we just can hope and pray that a miracle will come from the left, from the right, so that people won't lose their health care. You know, policy decisions directly affect lives, and healthcare is not just a debate, it's a lifeline. You know, our reflection should be, how can we advocate for accessible healthcare? You know, are we silent when others suffer, or do we speak up for justice? And see, that has been my thing. I won't be silent. I just won't. I just can't, you know? And we have to speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. Defend the rights of the poor and the needy. It- Come on. I mean, that is a proverb, Mr. and Miss Christian. Advocacy is a spiritual responsibility. So, hey, what can we say but pray, pray, pray. Pray in the noonday, pray every day, because this is going to affect a lot of people, kids, children, the elderly, retirees, the widow, you know. So we definitely need to keep all of that in mind. So we're going to end with the good news happiness calendar. And I don't know if you all heard of the good news happiness calendar. Let's pull it up. Let's pull it up. Let's put it up. Okay, I am going to pull it up. Share the screen, share the screen. Don't be mean, don't be mean. Okay, this is the December 2025 happiness calendar. So this month, seek out joy together. So I don't know if anyone wants, let me put this, can I put this, let me share this. I'm gonna put this link in the comments for anyone interested. I hope this can paste. Uh-oh. Let me put this in the comment on Facebook. And so December came in on Monday. Oh, and we had some snow today. But anyway, December came in on Monday, and the challenge was say hello to your neighbors. On Tuesday the 2nd, it says ask more interesting questions. On Wednesday, it said consider what you want in a relationship. On yesterday, it says start your day with gratitude, which is something we should do every day. And today, it says make space for the possibility of forgiveness. Tomorrow, it says slow down and savor the holidays. So I really like this calendar. And, Communities worldwide share joy to close the year with hope. That's what we're hoping for. Small acts of kindness ripple outward. Joy is contagious and powerful. It says the joy of the Lord is our strength. Now, reflect on what one action can you take this month to spread joy. Are we waiting to feel joy, or are we choosing to feel it and give it? A cheerful heart is good medicine. Joy heals, and sharing it is a divine gift. So, if each of us takes one step toward empathy and responsibility, sharing love, sharing joy, imagine the world we could build together. So, that is all that I wanted to share today. And I just hope that something said might cause you to share, or cause you to reflect, because it's all about reflection. Next time, I probably won't do like as many topics, because I really didn't plan on being on here for an hour. But it is what it is. It's Friday. I hope you are safe, enjoying yourselves. But again, I hope that you get that calendar and use it every day. This website does one for each month. So I pray that you will definitely utilize it, share it, and be about it. Be about it for sure. So now I'm just going to close out, and I'm going to close out with this. Abba Father, who is the Most High, creator of all, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give it to us daily. And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. That forgiveness. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. We come against all evil and replace it with love, power, sound mind. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory. We say amen. Amen.